Good evening. Welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ+ daily evening television news, broadcasting live and available on demand. Available on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter. It's time to queer up the news. It's Monday, December 19th, 2022. We are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we're going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
I'm your anchor at Queer News Tonight, David Hopkins. This evening we bring you the news of and perspective representing the LGBTQ+ community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ+ evening news show. Whatever happens unique in LGBTQ+ news, you will see it and hear it.
Happening Out Television Network is a 501c3 nonprofit media platform in the television and radio model of PBS and NPR, but designed for our LGBTQ+ community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ+ media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
Our magazine is celebrating 37 years of the LGBTQ+ experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ+ and broader community.
Well, good evening. Let's start by welcoming anchor Dale Stine. With a background in music and the arts, he's a well-known photographer, famous for his photographs of internationally acclaimed DJs, drag personas, and other entertainers, including our very own Faye Watt, who's normally here today, but it's her birthday, so we let her off. He's presently the director of music ministry at Unity on the Bay, as well as moderator of South Florida's largest LGBTQ+ Facebook group, Miami Gay List, which can also be found on Instagram as @GayListOfficial. An activist with multiple LGBTQ+ organizations, Dale is also currently vice chair of Miami Beach's Human Rights Committee. Good evening, Dale.
Thank you, David. It's great to be back in the studio. I haven't been here in quite a few weeks.
Because you're doing everything else according to your intro. That's
right. Well, you know. Let's welcome anchor Gregg Shapiro. An inductee into the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame, Gregg is the author of 8 books, including his latest, Fear of Muses, an entertainment journalist whose celebrity interviews and music reviews run in a variety of regional LGBTQ+ and mainstream publications and websites. His movie review column called Screen Saver can be found in South Florida Gay News, San Francisco's Bay Area Reporter, RottenTomatoes.com, and more. Good evening, Gregg.
Good evening, David and Dale. D&D. We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ+ community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast. And here are the bullet points of the Queer News for today, Monday, December 19th, 2022. And I'd like to wish everyone a happy National Hard Candy Day. Anyone care for Jolly Rancher?
I don't know. I'll be fine and dandy, but it's looking like a hard candy Christmas.
Dolly Parton.
Yeah. And speaking of the divas we love, we're going to begin tonight by queering up drag culture. RuPaul breaks silence on GOP drag queen hate and still believes in the power of love.
Well, it can't be lost on you what's going on around the country, and it can be really disheartening to see how people in that community are being treated. What's your best advice? What do you say to young kids and people who are?
It's such a tragedy how our country has become so divided, and it really breaks my heart. I pray for our country and the world, really. And I still believe in the power of love. So what I say to everyone is don't lose faith in the power of love.
RuPaul Charles has said he still believes in the power of love despite a global increase in anti-LGBTQ+ and anti-drag hate. On Friday, December 16th, the Drag Race host made an appearance on NBC's Today Show, where he discussed anti-LGBTQ+ sentiment across the U.S. The Emmy-winning drag queen's words follow the LGBTQ+ advocacy organization GLAAD publishing a report which highlights threats against drag events in the U.S. this year. According to the report, there have been at least 141 protests and significant threats against drag events. They cited incidents targeting drag events in 47 states, with Texas being the state responsible for 20 of the protests and threats. During the discussion, RuPaul told Today's Hoda and Jenna Bush that he was most proud of the success of his competition series contestants. RuPaul previously slammed attempts to condemn drag shows. However, on the Late Late Show, he said that banning children from going to drag shows is a diversion tactic. RuPaul's Drag Race launched in 2009 and has so far won 26 Emmy Awards. Just this past weekend in Texas, Murray and Peter's Drag Race Christmas, which features a lot of the drag stars from RuPaul's Drag Race, had an armed protest outside of it. The event markets itself as friendly for everyone, but with adult content, so that way parents can make their own informed decision on whether to bring their children. But that's not the way the media and the groups that were protesting, phrased it. They put it as a family-friendly event, which it's not.
Well, and you have to admit that there's an interesting dichotomy here, because Drag Race is, as they said, a multiple Emmy Award-winning program with an audience made up of large range of LGBTQ+ and straight folks.
Oh, a lot of them.
Some of them, I'm guessing, probably live, in Texas.
Or might be married to one of the protesters.
That's really, and yet the self-hating, militant closet cases that make up the Proud Boys are out there loudly protesting, actually protesting maybe too much, because, they want to sort of cast a beam of suspicion, don't want to cast a beam of suspicion on their proclivity.
I was at a drag show, a drag brunch this past weekend, and a very well-known one, but just it occurred to me at some point, I thought, oh, am I going to see protesters? I mean, just because the thought runs through your mind because it's so commonplace now, So.
But this is like in South Beach or something?
Miami.
So do you feel like it's possibly dangerous there, or?
I did not in terms of danger. I didn't feel. I just thought, will there be protesters? I mean, it didn't occur to me that it would be dangerous, but it did occur to me that I thought about it going in, like, this is an ordeal. You think like, oh, there was a time not very long ago when it's like, oh, I'm just going to drag brunch.
Right.
And now it's like, oh, I'm going to drag brunch.
Well, I mean, here at Sunshine Cathedral, we were discussing before show, they had the holiday concert here, which was not a church service, it was a charity fundraiser. And it's gone viral on TikTok because they did a version of Sam Smith's Unholy talking about Mama kissing Santa Claus. Was it the mistletoe's fault? Like, it's a silly, fun thing, and it's a fundraiser, but people are having a fit. And then, of course, during Advent, our Reverend Darrell, Dr. Watkins, has been doing a drag queen Bible story hour, which is amazing. So I'm actually surprised we haven't had protests here, because there's a time and a place where drag is not appropriate for kids, and there's also a time and place where it is. If you're going to a drag queen story hour, they're not doing cartwheels in bikini,
right.
like it's they're sitting there reading stories.
Right.
Well, next let's queer up education. Florida Senate President getting ready to show Don't Say Gay was a lie to cover all gray. Florida Senate President Kathleen Posidomo, a Republican from Naples, signaled support on Thursday for a potential expansion of Florida's parental rights in education law, which drew heavy opposition this year from critics who labeled it the Don't Say Gay bill. Governor Ron DeSantis signed the law HB 1557 in March amid a controversy that centered mainly on a provision that bars classroom instruction about sexual orientation and gender identity in kindergarten through third grade. Also, the law requires that such instructions be, quote, age appropriate in accordance with state academic standards, end quote, in higher grades. Posidomo told reporters Thursday that she would consider expanding the law to bar instruction about sexual orientation and gender identity in additional grades. She said, quote, "The one thing that I think could be looked at is we ended it at grades 1 through 3. I don't think I'd be supportive of high school because kids in high school are hopefully a little bit more mature. At least they should be. But the middle school may be going to 6th grade or something like that," end quote. Opponents have argued the law, which has been challenged in federal court, chills educators' ability to discuss sensitive topics with students and removes teachers as a lifeline for vulnerable LGBTQ+ youth. Well, for me, this is one of those I told you so moments on steroids.
Yeah.
Because we have talked about this on the show for now, how long has it been?
A year.
Or long, it seems longer,
Yeah.
but from the get-go, from the onset, we said, this is what it's about. Getting their foot in the door and then expanding it so they can just get as wide a reach as possible.
And that was part of the vague language they used.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, yeah, like you said, we've been talking about this. The sad thing is that it's not really that surprising, just despite how insidious these people are. And actually, from the looks of it, from Pasadomo, there are obviously no gay hairdressers in Naples. But you know, she lives for her curling iron. She loves her curling iron.
You know, it's important to have kids be able to access this information, especially 4th, 5th grade. They're starting puberty. That's where their
totally.
sexuality and that's where they're really coming into who they are as a person. So to be able to have these conversations, sex ed's important. It's not about sexualizing, it's education. Everybody matures sexually. It happens. Sorry, parents, your kids are going to mature sexually. We're not telling people to go have sex or who they should have sex. We're teaching them health and well-being and accepting the changes in your body that are going on. Like it's. If I had positive conversations about identity when I was a kid, I wouldn't have been suicidal in high school. Like, you know, it's.
I mean, I'm so old, you know, like when I was young, I mean, there was no TV, there was nothing, the word gay, I didn't even know what it was, you know. So, yeah, I mean, as young as 1st grade or kindergarten, I was aware before that. So for sure, kids who are 4, 5, and 6, as you say, are aware of their sexuality, and that's how it's arising within them. And even more so now, because there's more access to information than when we were younger. Even you, David.
Yeah, well, it's absolutely true. I mean, one of the first openly gay mentors, I guess you could see on TV, where I saw somebody portrayed who was doing visibly good, was, you know, early 90s with Pedro Zamora on The Real World. And he did his HIV activism. He came to my school and spoke. And
we did. Wow.
That was
It's amazing.
one of the only times I ever saw anybody positively portrayed who was LGBT or learned anything about sexual health or anything.
For sure.
And it was years after that before anything else. So yeah, it can change people's lives and save lives.
Absolutely.
Definitely. And now we're going to queer up Florida and Florida. Here's the man who may get 3,600 LGBTQ and anti-racist books banned in Florida. A conservative activist named Bruce Friedman is trying to get over 3,600 book titles banned from Florida schools, including books that contain so-called, quote, porn, critical race theory, social emotional learning, and fluid gender, end quote. Friedman, who is president and founder of the Florida chapter of the right-wing education group No Left Turn in Education, presented this list during a November 28th meeting of the Florida Department of Education Library Media Working Group, a group that will train public school librarians on how to follow censorship rules signed into law by Governor Ron DeSantis earlier this year. Friedman said that this list proves that, quote, libraries have more than a little poison in them, end quote, according to Popular Information. He demanded that the Department of Education clean up this mess, or he would, quote, perform 3,600 challenges to the books and overwhelm your awful, awful procedures and policies, end quote. He has already successfully gotten the book The Girl from the Sea and at least 101 other titles removed from Clay County Library shelves due to a policy that automatically removes books after someone formally submits a challenge to them. The Girl from the Sea is an award-winning graphic novel, despite the fact that the book contains neither nudity, sex, nor swearing. Friedman says the book shouldn't be available because the book promotes promiscuity and premarital sex, and students are, quote, not in school to learn how to be better lesbians, end quote. Okay, so, okay.
I mean,
I want to be a better lesbian because I want to build a deck, but no, I'm kidding.
It's really hard to read that story without laughing. I mean,
poor, tragic Bruce Friedman. Doesn't he realize that every time he turns around, they're calling him anti-Semitic names, wherever the hell he is, those people? I mean, regardless, he's too stupid to realize that these Christianist crusaders wouldn't think twice about disposing of him once he's fulfilled his obligation to them. Also, does anyone suspect that maybe there might be an abundance of, quote, better lesbian porn on his hard drive. Just saying.
Oh, hard drive?
These stories, I hate the term conservative activist, because activism indicates creating positive change, and
the progressive
and there are Christian activists who are in the they are trying to portray their religion in a better light than it often gets, and they're trying to help people in the way that Christianity's actually meant to be. This is a right-wing zealot who wants the book burning and the ignorance because he's afraid of other people learning things that he disagrees with. There's a lot of people I disagree with. They should have the right to learn and educate themselves about their issues and see if we still disagree after the education, or if they can help educate me on something I disagree with. This guy's just a nutcase. He is the poison in the library.
And when he was asked, he hasn't read the books.
No.
He probably can't.
He has no idea what they're about, no idea what the content is, no idea of any of it. He's just making a ruckus to make a ruckus and to be a troublemaker. And
he wants tension. Well, speaking of religion, now we're going to queer up religion. Another turn as court rules Yeshiva University must recognize LGBTQ+ student group. A state appeals court in New York has ruled against Yeshiva University in its efforts to deny recognition to an LGBTQ+ club on campus. On Thursday, a 4-judge panel of New York's Appellate Division in Manhattan issued a unanimous ruling that Yeshiva University did not qualify as a religious corporation exempt from the New York City human rights law and must formally recognize the YU Pride Alliance. The panel also ruled recognition of the LGBTQ+ club would not be a violation of the university's First Amendment constitutional rights. Katie Rosenfeld, YU Pride Alliance's attorney, told Law and Crime, quote, "We hope that the university will accept the Pride Alliance's invitation to resolve the lawsuit by finally recognizing an authentic, student-run, mutually acceptable LGBTQ+ undergraduate student club that operates like all the other clubs at YU," end quote. Students with Pride Alliance had sued after the school failed to recognize the group, and a New York State judge in June ruled in their favor, saying the school was not a strictly religious institution and was not exempt from local anti-discrimination laws. The university argued its Orthodox Judaism beliefs do not permit approval of same-sex relationships. The university is expected to appeal the decision. This is one of those things where if you are a school educating the public, you have to follow the public rules. Churches, I'm completely a firm believer that churches have the right to accept people into their church or employ people in their church that fit their moral standards, whatever that is, based on their religion. I have no issues with that. They have the right to that First Amendment. But this is a college where the public goes. It's not a church.
Right.
It throws you a little bit off. I'm just not to play devil's advocate, I guess, because you hear the word yeshiva, university, and I think, okay, a religious thing, but it's not that. So it's somehow they get but they're trying to use that wedge. I mean, I guess there was conservative Judaism, so they're just like regular Christian conservatives, right? I mean,
and this is Orthodox.
Well, I mean, like Notre Dame is a very well-known Catholic college, but it's also a public college. So they have been able to reconcile their Catholic beliefs with their student body who may not necessarily agree with those.
Right. So they're going to appeal it, of course. And I think it will be struck down again. I mean, they'll just keep appealing it. I mean, how many times are they going to appeal before they get struck down?
Oh, and this is happening right at the beginning of Hanukkah too. And now I want one of those YU Pride Alliance T-shirts too. They're very stylish.
Yeah. Okay. Well, next, let's queer up the worldview. Ukraine turns the tide for LGBTQ+ rights among Eastern European countries. Lawmakers in Ukraine on Thursday unanimously approved a media regulation bill that will ban hate speech and incitement based on sexual orientation and gender identity. Olena Shevchenko, chair of Insight, a Ukrainian LGBTQ and intersex rights group, told the Washington Blade, quote, "It's a big step for Ukraine to start adoption of our legislation to European values. We hope our government will recognize LGBTQI people as equal as soon as possible," end quote. President Volodymyr Zelensky in 2021 pledged Ukraine would continue to fight discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity after he met with President Joe Biden at the White House. Russia on February 24th of 2022 launched its war against Ukraine. Zelensky, less than 6 months later, said he supports a civil partnership law for same-sex couples. Ukraine in 2015 banned employment discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. members of the Ukrainian parliament granted equal rights to gay workers on November 12th of this year. The adopted legislation was a requirement from Brussels if Ukraine wanted visa-free travel. As a result of the vote, Ukraine's labor code will be amended to include sexual orientation and gender identity as grounds on which discrimination in the workplace is prohibited. The European Union had set the inclusion of an anti-discriminatory provision for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and intersex people as a prerequisite for visa-free travel. Wow. I mean, I think about, you know, the evolution of Ukraine in the last 2 years is just phenomenal. Because it wasn't that long ago that on this show we were reporting how horrible Ukraine was for LGBTQ. And now it's the tide, the story headline was exactly right. The tide has turned.
Well, it's funny because it's almost Putin to thank for that.
Almost, and I think the same thing.
Like with the invasion, a lot of LGBTQ people and people even in drag have joined the military and helping fight to defend the Ukraine, and their fellow national residents of Ukraine see that and they recognize it. I follow the gentleman who founded LGBT military on social media. His name's Victor. He's a great guy. I'm actually going to send him this tonight. And he's always posting stuff about how much social change has come about because of this war. And that's why Ukraine is winning against Russia, who by all means should have walked in there and stopped it, because the Ukrainians have heart and they've banded together and they are finding unity through this conflict that a lot of countries don't find at all. So awesome, Ukraine. Love you guys. And it's good to see change and everybody getting acceptance.
And they have sane leadership as opposed to the insanity. And isn't he just a dreamboat?
Between him and the mayor of Kyiv.
But just to your point, though, just to like drive it home even more, because it is fascinating. Because I thought, well, Putin, thanks, Putin, because it is horrific. What, of course, we know it's horrific. But what it's that unity. It's so the Ukrainian people are seeing. Well, yes, we have these differences, but how are we alike? We are all in this together to fight, to stand up for our country and our right. So it's really quite inspirational.
A common enemy will do that for sure.
Yeah.
And now we're going to queer up business. Elon Musk, the self-crowned king of free speech, bans doxing except when he wants it done. Twitter CEO Elon Musk has banned several users for what he has called doxing less than a day after requesting the details of a stranger. The former richest man in the world made the claim that he would ban accounts doxing real-time location info in a December 15th tweet. Doxing refers to revealing private information of someone without their consent, typically a home address or personal details. Less than 3 hours later, Musk shared a recording of an individual who was reportedly following a car, thinking it was the Twitter CEO, asking people to work out who it was. Musk claimed that the individual blocked a car carrying his child, thinking that the Tesla owner was inside, and proceeded to climb on the hood. Musk then proceeded to suspend several journalists and notable Twitter names for what he claimed was doxing his personal information. But after managing to join a Twitter Space voice chat room despite being suspended, Drew Harnell, a journalist, told Musk that posting the links to an account sharing public information that has since been suspended is not doxing. He also accused Elon Musk of hypocrisy, saying that Musk was using link blocking methods, which he has previously denounced to stop people from sharing Elon Jet's Instagram and their Mastodon accounts. Well, it's nice to see Ebenezer Musk is fully embracing the spirit of the winter holidays by doing this just a few days before Christmas. No. And by the way, I'm so sorry to hear about his tanking Tesla stock moron. I mean, Elon.
And for the viewers who aren't aware, Elon Jet was an account that tracked where his jet was as it traveled, which is public information. Flight plans have to be filed. It's not not anything secret or personal, just like the 14 trips he took to Epstein's Island, which are all documented.
Yes.
But the link blocking actually hurt a lot of content creators, especially in the adult industry, because
friends.
Yeah, and many of my friends. He just put a ban on linking to Instagram accounts or sharing other social media and stuff, which he's all about free speech until he gets cranky and petulant and, does a temper tantrum. My favorite temper tantrum from him yesterday, though, was when he posted a poll asking if people thought he should resign as the leader of Twitter. And as of last time I checked, like 60% of the people say he should resign. So
It really isn't that bright.
No.
I mean, you would think, though, with all the business things he's done, he's got to be bright, right?
No, he's just ungodly wealthy because his parents own gem mines in South Africa.
Yeah,
and he's just it's ironic, he is socially awkward for someone with a social media company.
Well, and I love, my favorite part of the story, favorite word, former richest.
I can't wait for Kathy Bates to play him on TV, though. So next, we queer up trans rights. Trans congressional representative got engaged on the White House lawn during the Respect for Marriage. On Tuesday, December 13th, President Joe Biden signed the Respect for Marriage Act into law. We reported on it live here on Queer News Tonight, securing marriage equality for same-sex and interracial couples as the law of the land. LGBTQ plus folks from across the country were in attendance, including celebrities like Drag Race star Britta Filter and lesbian activist Haley Kiyoko. Taylor Small was also in attendance. Small became Vermont's first transgender legislator in 2020 after winning a spot in the state's House of Representatives. Today, she's a leading voice of LGBTQ plus advocacy, and she's engaged. She first spoke on social media about the momentous event last week with a photo of her and her partner. She said, quote, "Dear Mr. President, thank you for inviting us to witness herstory in the making, and of course, respecting marriage," end quote. Just a day later, Small announced that the two actually got engaged on the White House front lawn, moments after Biden signed the act. She wrote a post celebrating her happiness, saying, quote, "After POTUS signed the hashtag Respect for Marriage Act, my amazing partner of almost 4 years, Carson, asked me to marry him on the south lawn of the White House. I, of course, said yes and could not think of a more fitting way to celebrate this moment in history. I love you, Carson," end quote. This is great. I love the work she's done. We reported on her when she got elected. We had our friends Jeff and Todd Dalmay on location for that, they helped overturn Florida's gay marriage ban. A very momentous time and location, and that is such a great place to get engaged. It's good to have a feel-good story.
Well, the first of my 4 weddings to my husband Rick took place in Washington, D.C. 4 weddings. Yeah.
But
we just wanted to
hope not followed by
just
funeral.
wanted to make
Hope
sure.
not followed by funeral.
No, just 4 weddings, no funerals. And we did it on the steps of the Social Security building during the 1993 March on Washington. So I can definitely relate. It was beautiful. It's historic. But I can relate to how thrilling it is to get married in our nation's capital.
And dear straight people who are against gay marriage, Gregg has been married 4 times to the same person without divorcing. Most straight people, that divorce rate's a lot higher.
Right, thank you. Thank you.
People that are against gay marriage, otherwise known as marriage.
Yeah, right.
Next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral's Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m. with more than 30,000 watching every week.
Hello everyone, my name is Francia. I am an Afro-Venezuelan singer, songwriter, dancer, healing through music. You can find me on all social media platforms at Francia Canta, and you can find my album Infinita on all music streaming platforms as well. That's Francia Infinita. And Sunshine Cathedral is my queer church.
I also love Francia's TikTok. Make sure to follow him. We finish tonight's Queer News headlines with a segment we call LGBTQ Plus 1 Minute News.
LGBTQ Plus 1 Minute News. Let's queer up LGBTQ Plus civil rights. From LGBTQ Plus news partner LGBTQ Nation and writer John Russell. Proud Boys move from goal of overthrowing of government to anti-LGBTQ action this year. Far-right extremist group the Proud Boys abruptly shifted their focus to anti-LGBTQ plus action in mid-2022. According to a new report from Vice News, the violent all-male neo-fascist group's involvement in anti-LGBTQ plus protests tripled this year compared to 2021. The data comes from the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project, also known as ACLED, as well as Vice's own tracking of Proud Boys activity, which found that 100% of anti-LGBTQ plus actions involving the gang took place between late May and December of this year. The shift reflects a new tactic following the January 6, 2021 Capitol insurrection. Read more at lgbtqnation.com.
LGBTQ plus 1 minute news. Let's queer up religion. From LGBTQ plus news partner Queerty and writer Charlie Gray. Christian hate group tried putting up a homophobic billboard. The Carytown neighborhood of Richmond, Virginia is a notedly bohemian area. No one expected one of the most progressive neighborhoods in the capital of Virginia to host an explicitly queerphobic billboard above a local establishment. Last week, that's exactly what residents were faced with. Christian hate group named Seed Sowers recently installed a rainbow billboard on a local establishment saying LGBTQ in bold letters across the top. And following this was written, quote, "What did Jesus say? What does the Bible really say?" End quote. Of course, the surrounding community condemned it, and the board was taken down. Read more at queerty.com. That is today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show. If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience watching this live LGBTQ plus news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV?
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world. This is the only place in the world that tells you these types of LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, David Hopkins, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Dale Stine and Gregg Shapiro, we'll see you daily at 8 p.m. To those who celebrate, have a happy second night of Hanukkah, great holidays, and to our LGBTQ plus world, we wish you good night.
Good night.
Bye.
LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Lara are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are